Human beings are made up of diversity. We're all different. However, one thing every human has in common is that we all follow the path of life. We all also have to make decisions along the way in order to keep moving forwards. Though we may not think about it all the time, our choices can affect many other people who we thought weren't even watching, and potentially change the world for the better. At some point on the path of life, we come to a fork in the road. Well, maybe not literally a fork. This is more or less the type of fork I was talking about. Anyways, when it comes time to choose a direction, or in other words, make a choice, it's up to us to decide what's going to happen next. Choices can be tough. Some we have to make in order to survive, while others we make to thrive. What are we going to do with our lives? That is the question we all must eventually ask ourselves. We can only stay on the path for a matter of time, so we might as well make it count and make the most of it. For example, I started picking out my clothes and dressing myself at a very young age. When I was in kindergarten, actually maybe even before that, I had always thought that I was destined to be a fashion designer. I would occasionally wear princess dresses and plastic heels to school in kinder and first grade, and I loved wearing it. The acrylic beads and fake sparkles really spoke to me at that point in my life. The stereotype of this job for me was glamorous and just what I wanted, or so I thought it was. I had also started talking at a very young age. I was saying words at 6 months old and said my first complete sentence at 9 months old, but that's a story for another time. From about 6 months to 10 years old, my parents read to me and tucked me in every single night, and that's not an exaggeration. I would ask each and every babysitter that babysat me to make up a story and tell it to me. I absolutely loved listening to their stories, and the characters that they told of or characters I saw in movies could always relate to me. In fact, I've even loved story, book, or movie time as much as I love writing itself. Movies, books, and stories were a big part of my life in my earlier years, and my early childhood has since impacted me in many ways. But back to the story. Even though I wanted to be a fashion designer at the time, I still loved to write. At some point in second grade, my whole world suddenly flipped upside down. And it all started when my 8-year-old self decided that I wanted to write a book. And this is my very first book. I would title it, and in fact I did, The Stories of Rachel, with the stories part spelled S-T-O-R-Y-S. So indeed, I worked on it under my desk every day for weeks and weeks while the teacher was teaching. Positive she would never know. I used lined paper and put all of the pages together with tape. It ended up being a book with 10 short stories, and one story also ended up being 19 pages long. And as a very special bonus, I brought this book with me today. So here it is. So yeah, that was my book. Okay, well, little did I know that this simple book would change the course of the rest of my life, and so it has. It was in second grade that I realized I had always loved to write. I discovered that maybe I wasn't supposed to be a fashion designer after all, but instead destined to be a writer. You may or may not have known this already, but today, as I humbly speak in front of you, I'm very proud to say that I'm an author. And this time, unlike second grade, it's for real, the whole enchilada. I'm the author of my very first, actually second book, which is titled Guardians of the Forest and was published this year in early January. It takes place in a whimsical, enchanting forest and is a beautiful story about a unicorn sidekick bluebird friend, and of course the hornless unicorn himself, who goes on a magical journey of self-discovery and finds himself learning things he never cared to know before. And as he goes through this journey, he ends up finding some things, which you'll see if you read it. And yeah, it has many important messages. And if you'd like to know more about it, then come visit with me after. writing a book is such a magical and wonderful experience. However, knowing that my creation is bringing smiles to many children's faces, no matter who they are or where they come from, might just be more magical. Changing the world for the better through my writing is my life goal. I hope to reach out to many kids and give them the simple yet powerful message they are not alone and never will be. An entirely different world of magic and fantasy is being unleashed as children open up my story. I hope that with this, it will also unlock a new outlook on life for them and allow them to escape into a magical place of mere thought and make them feel like they can make a difference in our world, because they can. I donated 100% of my proceeds from the first 1,000 of my limited edition copies to the Andy Roddick Foundation in hopes to benefit all of the children that attend this camp, as well as to help the foundation build their first library, and many of the books will be going on these shelves. The other copies of my books were either purchased personally or bought to donate. I can't even begin to tell you what it feels like to know that my characters are going to help many kids out there and give them hope, and make them feel like they are not alone and that they are loved. I'm happy to say that out of my first 1,000 copies, I was able to sell all of them. And just last weekend, I handed over a jumbo check to Andy Roddick and a massive sum of $16,174. Which was all of my proceeds for the first 1,000 copies of my book. For the books that I have brought with me today, 10% of the retail price will be going to Room to Read. Just so you can get an idea of what my story is like, this is the second picture in my book, which was amazingly illustrated by Ryan Durney. I brought lots of books with me today, so make sure to come by and check out my book afterwards, and feel free to buy as many as you like. Now, you may have wondered at some point in my talk why I actually wanted to write and take on the responsibility of a book so early in my life. I thought about this particular question a lot while writing my speech, and this is what I have to say about it. I remember having a huge aha moment in second grade. I was maybe halfway through writing The Stories of Rachel, and I remember this particular moment perfectly. I clearly recall thinking to myself, if I know what I want to do for the rest of my life, might as well start now. You never know how long you're going to live, and I figured since I already knew what my life's purpose was and what I wanted to do for the rest of it, there was no point in waiting 15 or so years just to wind up doing what I already knew I wanted to do in the first place. Many people tell me I'm an old soul, but even so, at least I'm a free spirit. So as I leave you for the day, think about what I've spoken of, and I hope it helps you find your way. May you make the most of your time on the path of life, make a difference, change the world for the better, and use business as a force for good, a force for greatness, because people come and people go. They might stay long, but you never know. Thank you.